So good afternoon. I'm sorry because of this change in schedule, because the video lecture went a bit over time, but what it will actually do is will just change our the structure of this afternoon a little bit. So my plan is now to talk a bit about role and organization models, which are very relevant, very necessary models for designing socio-technical systems. And then I will give you a short exercise that is related to your product ideas. So in that exercise, you will create role models and organization model for your product ideas. And after that, because there is time pressure, because this course lasts for just 1 week, after that I will continue lecturing, and I will give an overview of domain models, and then having done that, again you will have time for creating a domain model for your product idea, and then we will end the day with presentations by you, just like we did yesterday. So are you happy with this kind of plan? So instead of having one long mentored exercise, we're going to do it in 2 parts. So before going to role models and organization model, I will give a short overview, short kind of fresh up of what we discussed yesterday. So first of all, I was talking about positioning of this course. So you remember this course is about product design. It's also about social applications. It is also about software engineering, and it is also about intelligent systems. So it lies in the intersection between product design, software engineering, social computing, and intelligent systems. Then I went at a greater depth into social computing. I provided some examples of social computing and explained the meaning of social computing, and also was trying to explain how social computing can be supported by distributed systems, like, for example, multi-agent systems. Then I introduced the book on agent-oriented modeling, The Art of Agent-Oriented Modeling, that this course is rooted in, and told you that the book is about developing distributed applications for the contemporary world, where computing is ambient and pervasive, and where there are many kinds of intelligent and maybe less intelligent devices around, both stationary and mobile devices. After that, I introduced 2 case studies. So one case study is about designing digital pets, Tamagotchis. So, and in this case study, we imagine being in the shoes of a product designer who has got a wonderful idea about the digital pet meant for kids in the first place, but why not for adults as well, and who is now about to design that product. So, in other words, that imaginary person has got an idea, has got a business model, but now he or she has to design the product. So that person is at the same stage where you are at the current moment. The other case study is about social grocery shopping, and in that case study, shoppers, they are supported by a system that enables shoppers somehow to register the prices for the products they buy, as well as the quality of service they have received, and store it somewhere in some centralized database, or maybe to store it in a distributed way. And then the system would enable other people to retrieve that information about the prices and quality of service and use it in decision making in order to make the right decision about the places where they should go for shopping, and to choose the right combination for their particular typical shopping basket. And this is particularly relevant for food products. And this example, of course, has been modeled after the United States. As someone mentioned here yesterday, perhaps it can be used in Europe as well in a different way, but the main thing here, the main reason why I'm using this example is just because it's a good example of social computing. So this the country context really doesn't matter here. Then I covered some central concepts in agent-oriented modeling. So do you remember what were some of those central concepts that we covered yesterday? What are the three most important ones? Yes, agent, system, yes, and model. Yes, exactly. Yes, and then we went into different kinds of models that are represented in the viewpoint framework. They are categorized in the viewpoint framework according to the vertical perspective, interaction, information, or behavior. So, in other words, are these models meant for representing interaction between active entities, agents? Are they meant for representing the behaviors of those active entities, or are they meant for representing the knowledge by those active entities, both shared knowledge between different active entities as well as their private knowledge? So these models are represented in the viewpoint framework, and in addition to vertical perspectives, the viewpoint framework has three horizontal layers, which are analysis of the problem domain, then design, so more kind of technical layer, and finally prototyping or implementation. And after that, we went to goal models. So I introduced the main concepts that are required for understanding and developing goal models. So, and these concepts are goal and role, and goals are divided into functional goals and quality goals, and then among quality goals we may distinguish to be goals and to feel goals, or emotional quality goals. And we heard more about quality goals this morning, including emotional quality goals. So that was what we learned yesterday, and now we are going. So this you saw already. So because you saw it in today's in the morning video lecture, you saw this. So there is no need to comment it. So we are going now to role and organization modeling. So why is it important? Well, it is important because the product idea that you have, there are always some stakeholders involved. I mean, this is stakeholders, I mean, the customers, of course, that you have on mind, but on the other hand, system administrator, perhaps. Also, venture capitalist is a stakeholder for your product, because you have to somehow, if you manage to persuade a venture capitalist to fund your product, then you have to cope with it. You have to actually, this is like a marriage. So you have to cope with that venture capitalist for a very long time, because he's expecting to get something back from this wonderful product idea when it is developed into a full-fledged product. So we need to model all kinds of roles. They are not just user roles, but I mean they are stakeholder roles. But this includes user roles. I mean different kinds of users of a system. for example, drivers in one of the case studies here, or like pregnant women in another case study, or like buyers and sellers in yet another case study. So there are different roles that should be represented. And it is not just about user role. I mean, your role is too generic to be useful. So roles should be more specific than user. But on the other hand, the roles are not technical. So the roles, I mean, they may be played by technical entities. They may be played by software entities, or by robots or humans, but actually who a role is going to be played by is not important here. So we do not need to think about it, because we're still at the stage of problem domain analysis. So in this sense, the roles shouldn't be technical. They can be played by technical entities, but the roles themselves should be general. For example, in a smart home, for example, there can be roles like scheduler. The scheduler that schedules different events for smart home, that is aware what is going on. And that can detect if a person appears, I mean, at an inappropriate time when nothing is scheduled, no one should not be there, and still someone appears. Scheduler is a legitimate role for a smart home. But also intruder is a role for smart home. If we're talking about intruder detections, then definitely we should have the role of intruder. Also security company is a relevant role for smart home. Maybe police even, maybe emergency services. So it's broader than just your system. So try to think in large, not just about your technical system, but about this broader socio-technical system. So we are here, role models. So we are addressing the interaction perspective at the analysis layer. And what is a role model? So how do we represent roles? Again, it is simple. I mean, I'm all for simplicity, especially for problem domain analysis. So a role is represented as a table, and the table has 4 very simple elements. So first of all, role name, and some name identifying the role, like intruder, or security company, or pregnant woman, or maybe driver. So these are all names for roles. Then there is a short textual description of the role, so that newcomers would understand immediately what this role is about, without going into further details. Just short, free-form description of the role. Then there is a list of responsibilities. And I think it actually makes sense to describe roles in terms of responsibilities. I hope you agree with me that it's very much in everyday language where we speak about roles in terms of responsibilities. For example, as a father, I mean, I have some responsibilities. I mean, I have to look after my kids. I have to support them financially. As a husband, I have responsibilities also towards my wife. So as a lecturer, I have responsibilities like to give a lecture, to prepare a lecture, to give a lecture, to analyze giving a lecture later on. This is something I did yesterday evening. I analyzed yesterday's lecture and then changed the slides a little bit accordingly. So there are different responsibilities. And actually you as participants in this summer course have also your responsibilities. I mean, the responsibilities are very simple, as to show up on time, listen to the lecture, participate in practical exercises, give presentations. So this socio-technical system that we are currently here, that we formed together, I mean, this has very definite roles. like lecturer and students, and each of those roles, or all of those roles, because there are more roles, like the role of the manager, think our vice rector, Alar Kolkis, the manager here. So all of these roles can be described in terms of specific responsibilities. And then, in addition to roles, there are also constraints. And while roles, while responsibilities have a more positive connotation, so what representing, expressing what one should do, like listen to the lecture, participate in a seminar, or follow the schedule of the whole event for the manager role. Then the constraints represent what shouldn't be done, or what is not appropriate, or some things that constrain some agent or some actor performing a given role. So, for example, for a lecturer, it's not appropriate to, for example, to talk about politics here, for example, or maybe about religion. So these are the things that that maybe should be listed as constraints. In some cases, of course, constraints are implicit, but in some other cases, it makes sense to list them explicitly. And similar constraints then characterize the student roles here. It's not, for example, it's that students shouldn't eat ice cream in the lecture hall here. So just a very, very simple constraint that we may need to represent in an explicit manner. Okay, let's go to examples. And as we have these two running examples, Tamagotchis and social grocery shopping, so we will stick to those examples because you are familiar with them already, so there is no need to go into yet another domain. So for the case study of Tamagotchis, we have the role My Tamagotchi representing my digital pet. So this is a role, and of course there is another role, owner. So now what are the responsibilities of the role My Tamagotchi? Well, I mean, they are first grow from baby to child to teenager to adult. So the Tamagotchi has to grow, and this should be here represented explicitly as a role, explicitly as a responsibility. Express hunger, become sick, produce excrement, express loneliness, misbehave occasionally. It's interesting. It's a responsibility that misbehave occasionally in order to have fun. So if it doesn't misbehave, then we will have less fun. And then this model also represents what this misbehaving entails. It entails expressing hunger when not hungry. It entails refusing food when refusing food when hungry. Presenting a friend with an inappropriate gift. This is an interesting one, because if you connect two Tamagotchis, well, unfortunately I've got just one here, but if you connect the two of them and one goes to visit another one, then occasionally when they exchange gifts, occasionally it happens that one Tamagotchi gives to the other one an inappropriate gift like a snake. And this is considered as here as inappropriate behavior, which is still a responsibility. But on the other hand, the owner of a Tamagotchi is supposed to discipline her or his digital pet, and there is a way how to do it by using a certain combination of knobs here, and to pushing these knobs in a certain order. You can discipline your Tamagotchi in order to reduce the occurrence of this kind of inappropriate behavior. So pretty much like in real life, isn't it? Like those of you, who have kids or have actually dealt with kids know what it is all about. Then visit the friend that I was just talking about. Give the friend a present, play with a friend. in one of the slides I showed yesterday, I mean, that one Tamagotchi is playing with another one. And now constraints. The present needs to be appropriate. So there needs to be this constraint, even though there is responsibility misbehave occasionally, but still we need to represent as a constraint that the present needs to be appropriate in order to really define this misbehavior fully. Then only the initiator can give a present. So this means that only when one Tamagotchi visits the other one, when I've connected their environments, these boxes, and one visits another one, so then only the one going for a visit, I mean, who enters the house of another Tamagotchi can give a present. So this is a constraint. It can also be called a social policy. And a social policy regulates interactions between agents. And this is not just about Tamagotchis, but also about humans. There are very interesting social policies that regulate interactions between humans. For example, in Estonia, an interesting one is related to weddings. So in Estonia, there is a social policy that whenever you attend a wedding, whenever you go to someone's wedding, you are always supposed to take flowers with you and give the flowers to the bride, always. And I haven't actually, heard about many other countries where this is the case. So what about you? Is it tradition in your country? Do you have this kind of social policy in any of the countries where you come from? So even in Finland, which is a kind of close country to us culturally, I mean, there is no this kind of tradition. And when I and my family went to a wedding in Finland, then we took flowers with us, and then we felt very strange, actually, because no one else came with flowers. But this is a social policy that regulates interactions between agents, be human agents or man-made agents. Then the higher the level of training, the less the Tamagotchi misbehaves. Again, a constraint on the behavior by Tamagotchi. The Tamagotchi needs to be of appropriate age to play with certain items. This is about these Tamagotchis, digital pets, but similar constraints can apply to humans. For example, a driver, when we have the role of a driver, then there for sure there is a constraint that a driver has to be of appropriate age in order to drive the car. And it's very important to have this kind of constraint, especially when it comes to insurance, like one of the applications or one of the product ideas that is being considered here in this course. The Tamagotchi must be of the appropriate age to go to preschool or school. The Tamagotchi must graduate from school to go to work. Well, this is, I think, a social policy also in a human society. You need to graduate to go to work. Of course, maybe it's not always as explicit, but in reality it works. It's not easy to find a job without proper education. The Tamagotchi must have a sufficient amounts of Gotchi points. This is a special kind of incentive for a Tamagotchi, or for its owner, actually, more for its owner, to gather Gotchi points for his or her digital pet. So the Tamagotchi must have a sufficient amount of Gotchi points to buy something from the shopping mall, food court, or travel agency. So you can do it. You can, as I told yesterday, you can enter with your Tamagotchi into a virtual environment, Tamagotchi town, and then you can actually go to a shopping mall, food court, travel agency, even town hall or church, and then you can buy there something or perform other activities. And this buying actually happens for those Gotchi points that the Tamagotchi has gathered that far. The Tamagotchi must have donated a certain number of Gotchi points to visit the king's castle. Another constraint pertaining to Tamagotchi, because it's in the Tamagotchi town, not everyone is allowed to the king's castle, but only those, who have gathered required number of points. And then I didn't mention these trivial things like the role name and the description, which can be very short, like the role of my digital pet here. And in a similar way, also we need to describe the owner, the role of the owner. So the owner, the name, the description, the role of the owner of my digital pet, and then the responsibilities for the owner. Wake up the Tamagotchi, feed the Tamagotchi, cure it, flush the toilet if needed, discipline the Tamagotchi, play a game with it, let the Tamagotchi play with an item, initiate an interaction with another Tamagotchi. Here, for sure, the owner is needed because the Tamagotchi cannot do it just by itself. Visit Tamagotchi town with the Tamagotchi and perform different activities in that Tamagotchi town, like take it to preschool, school, workplace, theater, food court, game center, and so on. And constraints are here. You see, these constraints are pretty physical. Like, for example, for interacting with another Tamagotchi, the owner needs to establish infrared connection with correct parameters between the two Tamagotchis. So these are these constraints here are of more technical nature. And this is allowed, but I would recommend not to become too technical. But for example, a constraint like in order to use or in order to detect an intruder, the system needs to be connected to the internet. This is a legitimate constraint. So you could have a constraint that saying that that the computer where some application is running or a set of computers need to be connected to the internet. So, and they are similar to these constraints here. Like here, actually, we have it. To visit Tamagotchi town, the owner must have a computer with internet connection. So it is technical, but it is not too technical. So it's not going into technical details. So are there any questions about these role models? So just represent your roles in terms of responsibilities and constraints whenever appropriate. To be complete, yes?
User roles, usually we consider the user of the system is more general, but there are different kind of users, like administrators, power users, and so on. If the responsibilities are different, does it mean that we should present them as a different entities, like different roles? Or it still can be grouped under the one user role, just follow the role of the responsibilities?
Well, I mean, I personally would avoid the term user even, because it's too, I mean, it's, you know, the user is too much related to centralized systems. I mean, system in a box, systems in a box, that there is a system, there is a box, and then there is the user. But with social applications, we all make up a system. I mean, they are open systems, so there is no limit. I mean, in the sense that, okay, that some are users and some are not. So they are, I think, rather than talking about users, so we should talk about commuters, patients, pregnant women, or about the insurance takers, premium payers, and so on. So I would avoid it as, I mean, as much as possible. So we're just talking about the stakeholders to the system. But of course, I mean, you need you need administrator, someone who has got different rights and different responsibilities. Actually, when we actually talk in terms of these goal models and different constraints as well. Like one of the constraints for an administrator might be that administrator is not allowed to reveal his or her password to anyone, or is not allowed to actually reveal the data that he or she can access.
Because what I'm curious about, that usually administrator has everything that the lowest user, I will still use this notion, the lowest user in the system have. For example, we can define that this type of stakeholder has minimum roles, but all this is included actually in administrator, and I'm a little bit confused by repeating this in all types of the user. If we start to arrange the system by system rights, we should say for every role that it is allowed to log in.
Yes, yeah.
For this type of
Yes,
user,
yes.
allowed it.
Okay, now
Instead of defining it some general like an interface.
Yes. This is actually a topic for organization models, because with organization models we represent relationships between roles, and there can be an inheritance or generalization relationship between roles, which means that if you have some kind of higher level role, then you can inherit responsibilities to lower level roles. So this is exactly that can be represented by means of organization models. But I still would recommend to avoid the role name user. Yeah. So we're coming to this also, during this session. Any other comments or questions? Nyt. Okei. Mõtlenko mä lõpetan selle osa ära siis, eks ole? Okay, so I will finish now this part about not yet but soon about role models, and then we have a guest here who is going to talk about startup companies and how to study startups at TTU, as I understood, and then we will continue. So sorry I forgot in the first place that there is also a guest here today. Okay, let's go to the other case study in order to be complete. So the other case study is about social grocery shopping, and in that case study we have the role of a customer. And here is the role model for customer. So we have the role name, this description, the role of customer in grocery shopping, and responsibilities like join the system. Actually, join the system is a responsibility rather than goal. Like I noticed yesterday, quite a few of you modeled it as a goal, but I think it's rather a responsibility because it pertains to a role rather than or it pertains to someone playing a particular role rather than to the whole system. Create the shopping list, pick products from the typical shopping list, confirm the stores and shopping baskets suggested by the assistant, confirm the routes suggested by the assistant. So assistant is, that will be on the next slide. Assistant is someone assisting a shopper, to buy groceries. And that role can be played by a human or can be played by a software agent. Drive to the stores, buy products, register product information. And the constraints to benefit from the product information posted by other customers, the customer must authorize posting of her product information. So this is an interesting one. So, and this is actually true for all kinds of social applications. In order to benefit from a social application, you need to contribute yourself. So this is very important. When you think of any kind of social application, you should consider, how you can enforce, or maybe how you can somehow create incentives for achieving this. And that is the role model for assistant that I mentioned. It's the role of a customer's assistant in grocery shopping, and the roles of assistant are to find potential stores, decide and propose the stores and their respective shopping baskets, decide and propose the route, create the typical shopping list, post price and quality of product information, receive price and quality of product information. So why do we need this role of assistant? So we need it because we want to automate the activities for a customer. And of course, we could automate it by another person. So some other person could play the role of assistant, But it is much more feasible to have a software agent or some software entity that plays the role of assistant that then finds potential stores for a customer, decides and proposes the stores and shopping baskets, decides and proposes the route, and also helps the customer to post price and quality of product information and receives price and quality of product information from other customers. And then there are also constraints, like for example, creating a shopping list should be simple and reflect the need by the customer, or for example, that the overall price for products bought from different supermarkets should be as low as possible. So this is the role model for assistant, and I think now it is appropriate to give floor to our visitor, and after that I will go into the organization model, and then will be a time for the first exercise of today.